my feel-good breakfast show.
I just realized it's almost superhero-esque the way Roy Simpson's intro goes in the Feel Good Breakfast Show that you know. It's like, I want to give this man a cape. And it didn't fly through the headlines. It's beautiful. It's Friday.
And crush him.
And there's so many different facets to what we have to cover today at these newspapers. I mean, kids in the Northern, Eastern and Western Cape and KZN all joined the rest of Mzansi's schools on holiday for 2 weeks. Yay! Can't wait. Exciting. Many parents so excited, because who needs free time anyway?
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, that's great. So a lot of questions around, you know, just what to do with these kids as well, and just if you have money to entertain them. But more importantly, we've got our news editor, Roy Simpson, who's entertaining himself. He's back with us too. And he's prepared us for any questions that will pop up, and also all of the headlines that we have here for you too. As always, we'd love to have you join the discussion on 063-408-8863. Roy Simpson.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. You're the best babysitter ever.
You really are.
Yeah.
And his rates are really low as well.
Are they?
It's great.
It's
Yeah,
true,
no,
yes.
that's why we keep using it. No, but I know it must feel like that with us, where you've got to kind of dumb things down a little bit in these very confusing times. It gets even more confusing when the news is starting to look like a movie. Then it gets even more bizarre than any movie you can find out there. Let's talk about Thabo Bester, a man who may or may not still exist. Take us, and it's ridiculous, it's absurd that I'm laughing in this sense, but the story has evolved to a level of absurdity. So take us through this prison saga. What is actually going on?
Well, I mean, there are two parallel, bizarre storylines here. The first is the public-facing one, which is Thabo Bester, and then his accomplice, potentially his lover. This is the Facebook rapist, his lover, Nandipa Magudumana, who they've been running this multi-million rand property conversion company. They've been renting these incredibly expensive places in like Hyde Park and the leafy suburbs.
The gig,
Yeah, it's really strange. The thing is that as bizarre and captivating as that story is, it's also not the real story. The parallel story, the much more important one, is about this prison itself. And if you recall, on Monday, we got a note in from Pierre Lingerfelder, I think.
Correct.
Yes. But Pierre asked us who owns G4S, the company that actually runs the prison.
You said you did some homework, right?
And I said I'd do homework.
Did you?
I did, because it turned out, you know when you go to the library to do your homework and you find that someone's already written the book?
Yes.
It literally happened in this case.
Oh, wow.
In fact, it's mentioned here.
Well done,
There is an author by the name of Ruth Hopkins.
Okay.
She's an investigative journalist. She spent 10 years probing South African's prison system, specifically the two private prisons, and almost entirely focused on Mangaung, the prison itself. So to answer Pierre's question, the shareholding in G4S that runs this prison does, as you would expect, given that there's all this cover-up, which is the real story, is that people are trying to suppress this story. It does tie back to ANC heavyweights who are shareholders in these companies. And I'm afraid this book is well worth reading. It's called The Merchants of Misery. Ruth Hopkins is the author. It's available online and in bookstores.
Ruth Hopkins, okay.
It is well worth a read. It's actually been around for a while. And in there, I'm afraid, Pierre, really disgusting and disturbing things about this prison. The use of psychiatric drugs to subdue prisoners.
Oh, my
someone
word.
tortured to death. It's all the worst of the apartheid system.
I was going to say, what era are we living in? We are seeing so many of these tendrils still holding.
It's appalling what's happening there, and it's being covered up in the interests of profit by these politically connected people. So, yeah, so that's the short answer.
Pierre, thank you for asking the question of the week, question of the year, quite possibly, but incredible stuff. Well, thank you for doing your homework, as terrifying as the outcome is, man.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it was in the newspaper already.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, Roy.
It's like that, eh?
But here's another thing that's coming up, and maybe we can discuss this in our next part, though, is that the DA are going to meet for a new leader.
Yes.
And I think if you can tease us for a second, all right, just before we unpack this, a new leader in the DA, what are we expecting here? What are we expecting are the factors over here? Just as a little intro to our discussion.
As a little intro, we're not actually expecting much in the way of change at all.
Is there anything new?
No, this machine is well-oiled and running happily in a particular direction.
Okay.
And I think it's going to stay that way. I mean, they got the China mayor's chains back. They're running a little advert saying that in some way or another, 1/3 of South Africans live under some kind of DA-related administration. So they feel balk that their train is going in the right direction. And the person theoretically in the front seat is John Steenhuisen. He's not going to be unseated.
Okay.
Not going to happen.
Yep.
Oh, well, we can cancel the second segment now.
Yeah,
You can tell us what you think about the name change here in Cape Town. I think that's going to press a few buttons this morning. No, we will get into this, and we have to understand this because it speaks to South African politics in a way that we really do need to wrap our heads around, because we're going to need to start voting pretty soon.
Yeah.
So you need to think about these things, and we'll continue this very important discussion in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. We're back with one of our favorites, news editor Roy Simpson, chatting about the latest headlines, both locally and abroad. This kind of helps us decode what's going on. He was listening for your intro sound music. That's what he was waiting for. He was waiting for that big moment.
Well, waiting to confirm something.
Hopefully, I think a lot within the DA is now resting on that waiting moment. Are we going to see something new? It didn't sound like before the break you were expecting anything new to come out of the DA.
No, I mean, you know, Sensei, we always expect the unexpected.
Aye.
But we don't in this case. Mpho Palatse, former Joburg mayor, is running against John Steenhuisen. There's no momentum for her campaign.
Okay.
Because much more importantly, the real engine house of the party is the federal chair, and Helen Zille is going uncontested for that position. So very much the controlling entity of the party, and with that is a whole sort of structure that's around her and her philosophies, and John Steenhuisen's very much part of that structure. So yeah, it's going to be the opposite of the ANC's. We're not going in knowing exactly what to expect.
Is that good or bad for the DA in terms of the election itself? Some young blood would have been great, surely.
Absolutely. Look, it's a mixed bag. It's good for them in as much as it means they should produce the results that they're projecting and anticipating, because there's nothing unexpected happening. In terms of their ambitions to become the governing party, that's bad, because the structure as it exists now does not excite the youth and doesn't really excite the broad base of the South African population.
Hasn't been able to a few times.
Yeah, so probably overall it's a good thing for them, but ultimately, nah.
More of the same.
Yeah.
If only we could grow our leaders in a lab with all the right bits to it. But
Right flavour, perfect flavour.
Exactly, like meat. Turns out that Italy's right-wing government do not want to do that. They want to stick to traditional cultures. So this sounds interesting. It sounds like organic in a way, but is it not also like a big blow for...
Save our salami.
Is it a big blow for the environment as well? And where is this coming from, you know? Like, what is going on?
So yes, so Italy's right-wing government's approving a bill which should become law that will prohibit the sale of lab-grown meat. And yes, of course, it's terrible for the environment. It takes about 15,000 litres of water to produce 1 kilogram of beef.
Yeah.
So just from a water conservation perspective. And there's no question at all that ethically, there are a lot of people that have a problem with killing animals for meat.
Sure, and that's not just vegan people belonging to a vegan identity. Exactly, yeah.
You have that vegan market, but probably the biggest food buying market in the Western Hemisphere anyway is meat lovers who feel squeamish about the fact that they're killing animals to do it. And here's your solution. You can grow this in a lab. And so it seems like the ethically, environmentally, the absolutely perfect way that we must go as a society. And the problem here is that you have this neo-fascist government, Giorgia Meloni's government, and as is common with all these sort of fascist movements, it's the harking back to the golden era, which takes us back to the farmers. So the farm lobby has huge sway inside Italian politics, and of course they don't want to see this come in,
Yeah.
because that's their livelihood.
Their mainstay,
They would have to completely change their business model. So that's where we're at with this one.
And this the whole time the cows are going, yay, moo, yay, moo. It's a tough one. I mean, there was so much we could have gotten through. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I wish we had some fake meat to offer you today. I think the whole world needs that. But the most important element here, we need to know what's affecting you. There are so many stories that affect us on the base level. How does that affect your life? 063-408-8863. Who should we be talking to? What should we be talking about? What are those matters that we need to get to the heart of? He'll go and do his homework if he has to.